Well, welcome to the Morning Update Show, everybody. I'm your co-host, Trey Holiday, and it is a fabulous Thursday. We have a great lineup with some amazing guests in studio today. I'm excited to get this show going, and y'all know I got to throw it over to my guy, Big O, making things happen. What's up, Big O?
Trey Holiday, what's happening?
Hey, what's going on, man?
I don't know, man. It's a lot going on, unfortunately. Some negative stuff going on. We'll get to that in the headlines. Really excited today, though, because it's Throwback Thursday, and guess what? I'm going back down memory lane with Reverend Harriett Walden from Mothers for Police Accountability. I also call her Mom.
Yes,
and
absolutely.
Before that, though, we've also got Gusti, Clark of Career Therapy. Gusti will be here, in this time of COVID, talking about, what people can be doing, looking for jobs. As you know, part of Big O's Big Three is the gap in the economic gap here in Seattle. And so I'm always big to talk to people when it comes about jobs and economic opportunities. So Gusti will be here on that. And I guess we'll just hop right into the headlines.
There we go, man.
All right. Well, first thing, it's part of our routine now, man, these days here in Seattle. We're starting with the air quality. And right now, we'll put this up here, Daryl. Today, according to the EPA, air quality is unhealthy. So unhealthy, and the number is 174, which is considerably down from yesterday. Yesterday it was in, I think, the mid 200s.
It was like 208, I think.
Yeah, it was in the 200 yesterday, which means that the air quality is actually improving, but it's still unhealthy. Want to remind everybody, man, stay out of this smoke if you can. And let's make sure and look after our people who might have a compromised respiratory system, asthma, but also our elders as well.
Yeah, I love that we keep on talking about this because it is affecting so many people. So thank you for that.
There's a good opportunity. In every crisis, there's an opportunity. So even this crisis of smoke, if nothing else, it's an opportunity for you to check in with your loved ones. Make sure they're all right. Some tragic news yesterday out of Capitol Hill. We were actually kind of around. Thank God we didn't necessarily witness anything, but in the general area and cover the story. Bobby Stills was there up on Capitol Hill first at Cal Anderson. And I joined him up there. So it was a murder. And then ultimately a suicide, murder-suicide up there, murder and a suicide up at Cal Anderson Park. Now, we as Converge, and even me individually as OMARI and Bobby and Eric, we know these people. And there's been a lot of chatter on Twitter, and people have been saying this, the deceased name, and we don't see it released by the police, so we're definitely not going to mention his name. Or the murder victim's name. What I'm saying? They definitely were in the marginalized part of society, but, just because of that doesn't mean that we need to break a protocol of releasing their name to the public before the police does. But I can say is that the alleged perpetrator yesterday, this is somebody that, man, we've seen and even interviewed a few times over the last few months, and definitely somebody who was struggling with serious mental health issues, serious addiction issues, and some of everything else. And even during CHOP, we would see him and talk to him, and we could really tell that there were some issues there. And then he's somebody who was he living in the park, Bobby? So he's one of the people who were living over there in Cal Anderson Park. And, there's a population that's there. This whole thing's been going on with people living in the park, people trying to get human services in the park, and some of everything else. So put out a few tweets yesterday. I'll be honest with you, what I'm saying, I've seen enough, been around way too much death and some of everything else in 2020. So, covered the story for a little bit. Ultimately, SWAT entered the pump house where he was held up, and they're saying that he committed suicide in there. So, yeah, it was pretty tragic.
Absolutely. And another one for us to follow up on, like we said, as the police release the name. I mean, once again, we're seeing violence throughout the city.
Yeah.
And this is something that, and I always go back to this, that it's families who have to deal with the loss. And it doesn't matter. I love that what you just said, because it doesn't matter if someone's marginalized or not. There's still family members and people that love that person that get left behind.
I mean, they just flaming people on Twitter. It's almost like this tragedy right here is an opportunity for people, whatever their political leanings or ideology is, just to take to the social media. They're putting up videos of dude and this and that. Man, you don't even know if his mama know. You see what I'm saying? That's the thing, is you don't even know, because regardless of what his position or state in life, man, somebody be having family somewhere, and you don't know if his mama even know that he's passed away. You don't know. You know what I'm saying, on the girlfriend, if the family is aware. You know what I'm saying? We need to be a little bit patient, more patient and vigilant in this social media age, you know, and regardless of the situation, man, let's be respectful. And the reason why people, you know, and when people pass away, and it's not that why they don't release the name right away, is because they talk to the next of kin first. You see what I'm saying? And so when we get on Twitter and we just want to put people's names out there, man, you cut off a real important process for somebody to be able to reach out to people's families and everything else, irregardless of your leanings on this, of how you feel. You know, let's not forget to be civil. Let's not forget to be humane, man. Let's not forget our humanity right now, especially with all this going on. Moving on to the next clip right here. This is actually from King 5. The judge ruled yesterday that your girl, that the recall can move forward. Looks like that he found grounds on four charges or 4 allegations, so the recall can proceed. Here's a clip right here from King 5.
Superior Court Judge Jim Rogers ruled that the recall effort against Seattle City Council member Kshama Sawant may move forward. Councilmember Sawant is accused of violating her city role during the height of the Seattle protests. Recall organizers allege a series of violations, including that Sawant used her passkey to City Hall and allowed protesters into the building, and that she appeared at a protest outside the mayor's home here in Seattle. During a virtual hearing today, the city prosecutor and Sawant's defense attorney laid out their arguments.
Would this conduct, after hours, with a passkey, clearly exceeding authority, constitute malfeasance and a violation of her oath of office? And we contend quite clearly that it does.
This is, on its face, by any fair reading, a political screed of criticism against Councilmember Sawant.
Okay, so the movement can go forward, but organizers do need to collect 10,000 signatures from Sawant's District 3 constituents to get that onto the ballot. Now, a group of Sawant supporters held a virtual rally ahead of today's court ruling. They say the recall effort is an attack on Seattle's working class.
So it's going to be interesting in D3.
Yeah, for sure.
They need to get 10,000 signatures from D3 voters. And then they can put this on the ballot, and then it'll be an election, D3 residents, whether to recall Councilmember Kshama Sawant or not. You know, and remember I told you yesterday in the show that John McKay, who was representing the recall side, very experienced lawyer, used to be U.S. attorney for the Western District. So it isn't like they got a slouch in there arguing their point. And then right after this, right after the ruling yesterday, I believe there was an online rally that basically Sawant and her supporters were there. But I mean, this is going to be a street fight. Like, I'm going to tell you, like, recall Durkin is going on. It's just like very simple. We send this brief, that brief, Supreme Court, whatever. This D3 recall is going to be a street fight, y'all. Watch my words.
Yeah, I think you're so right. We talked about this before, but Kshama supporters are strong. They're very well organized. We know this. We've seen the sea of red, whether it was T-shirts, whether it was posters and flyers and flags. I mean, we have seen that during her time when she was trying to get back in office. I'm sure that we're going to see another uptick in that during this recall. We'll be following that for sure.
No, we're on top of it. Something else that came out yesterday, reporting from the New York Times, is actually another clip here from King 5. We're talking about Bill Barr and the Department of Justice. And Barr thought about, bringing the pain against Mayor Durkin and maybe charging protesters with sedition and everything. Man, it's just a lot, man.
It is.
It's just a lot. Go ahead and play this clip, Daryl.
Reportedly wanted to look into criminal charges for Seattle's mayor. I'm Greg Copeland.
I'm Jessica Janner Castro. This evening, the New York Times reported that William Barr asked the Justice Department's Civil Rights Division to explore charging Mayor Jenny Durkin for letting protesters establish the Capitol Hill Occupied Protest Zone, or CHOP, back in June. A few blocks of Capitol Hill were barricaded for weeks this summer, as you'll remember, after police officers abandoned the East Precinct. The president repeatedly threatened both Mayor Durkin and Governor Jay Inslee with federal intervention. The article also alleges Barr asked authorities to explore sedition charges against violent protesters. We have reached out to Durkin's office for a comment, but we are still waiting to hear back.
It's always something interesting. you know what I'm saying? It's man, and you gotta wonder, some of this stuff is election season, and so it's like, how can they route something in for election season, or is this just like hardcore ideology, or what?
Right. I mean, I think we've seen so many things during this federal presidency. We've seen so many different things, and this is another one. Once again, it's like, there's been talk. We heard the talk, the chatter during CHOP. It's brought a lot of attention to Seattle from all sides, so that's for sure.
Man, we're going to stay on top of this. Again, that clip there was from King 5. The original reporting is from the New York Times. That's who broke this story about Bill Barr and the Department of Justice. And, last night I talked to Nikita Oliver. And so what happened is that I was watching Dow Constantine's press conference. And like I said, this is how I spend my time these days. I used to do more exciting stuff, but now I got to stay on top of these things. So I'm watching County Executive Constantine, and I see Nikita Oliver in the comments. She's like, yeah, but what about this? What about that? I was like, man, maybe I should just call Nikita and see and get her feedback, on the presser. It's the best thing. We got a network. Why not use it? And so she agreed. And so I talked to Nikita Oliver last night. And I don't know if you got a chance to see the interview or not, but it went well. 30-minute interview. Basically broke down a bunch of different clips from County Executive Constantine, and then you had Prosecutor Saddleberg, and then there was also Marlon Brown from Black Lives Matter, Seattle King County. But it was really interesting because, like, Dow Constantine, if you listen to what he's saying, it's like he's hitting all the points that a lot of people want to hear. Let's invest in community, let's let community lead this, let's do this and that, everything else. And, one of the things, and we talked about this before, is that I think that the county executive a lot of times doesn't really recognize the work that's probably been going on. And if he does recognize it, he doesn't vocalize it. And Nikita Oliver brought up a point here in this interview saying that by the executive not acknowledging the years of hard work that's gone into something, that it might give people the wrong idea that systemic change is fast food, this quick service. Anyways, I think she explains her position best.
Those partners, the organizers, the young people who have birthed that work are often completely erased from the story. And for me, it's not about recognition. What it is about is telling holistic stories about how change happens. People need to know that it's movements that drive elected officials to make these kinds of changes, not the other way around. Like, Dow didn't wake up today and suddenly decide he was going to do something different. Dow has decided, after many, many, many years of people advocating and protesting and pushing him, to now make these significant shifts. And it's taken a lot of work on the back end, a lot of late nights, a lot of meetings to make this work a reality, and a lot of expertise that people have established outside of the system, on their own, in community, on the ground. And in order for future generations to understand how change happens, I think we have to tell holistic stories. And I think that Dow and Dan Satterberg need to be willing to be accountable for the ways in which they have ignored Black voices for the last 8 years, asking, demanding, working towards something different. I think it's important for those who are sitting at the table to be recognizing the legacy of work that contributes to the place that we're in now, so we can be holistic about it, and we can make sure electeds don't get to escape accountability for all the times that they ignored community voices, and actually say, you know, it would have been nice to hear Dow say, I didn't listen to you all for 8 years, and you know, white privilege, my position in society have allowed me to ignore that, but now I am awake, I am showing up, and to folks in the No New Youth Jail movement, thank you for the ways in which you have contributed to my awakening. Probably would have been a great way to restart things in a manner that has acknowledged the blood, sweat, tears, and life force that has gone into opening that door in the first place.
All right, Trey. So Nikita is part of your coalition, King County Equity Now. What are your thoughts? I know you saw some of the interview. What are your thoughts of what Nikita was saying, and also Dow Constantine's position now? What he's saying?
Yeah, well, I mean, honestly, I think that Nikita hit the points right on the head. If you're asking me, I mean, we have seen that this coalition of King County Equity Now, we talk about it all the time, that it wasn't new. It's not a new concept. Everybody had these relationships. They already knew the players involved on the streets, the ones that have been pounding the pavement and doing this work. And relationships within community have been built. A lot of this stuff is like growing up with so-and-so and knowing this person who does this thing. And so there's these deeper connections that exist there. So I think she's absolutely right in terms of Dow not addressing the fact that it is movements. It's the pressure from the movements. It is this collective people power that brings about real systemic change. This is the voice of the people now being utilized in a way to say, you know what, we do need to make these changes, but to not give reverence to that movement, to those collective voices, that is a huge misstep on Dow's part. And I think that she's right in that regard to say that it would have been great for him to, maybe he wouldn't come out and acknowledge the movement the way that she suggested, but I do think some acknowledgement in, hey, you know, there has been a progressive movement for the last 8 years that has really been at my doorstep. And that is something that has helped me shift and change and also build relationships on the other side to understand some of these other strategies. Well, I think that's important.
You also got to think that maybe, you know, what kept him from doing that? Because a politician's always looking for a way to make a new friend and not an enemy. And that was a perfect opportunity in this announcement to say those kind of things. And then you find somebody like Nikita be like, that's what's up. Glad he said something. You see what I'm saying? So you also, sometimes it's not what people do, it's what, you know, it's what they're doing, what they're not doing, but what's the reasoning why? What kept Executive Constantine from having a big, you know, like, man, these are the people, and I'm glad that, man, you guys entrusted me to take it across the finish line. And, you know what I'm saying? I don't know, man. I mean, it's politicians. You know, I mean, what a way to encompass all these people that have been doing this work, man. And, you know, he can still be the flag bearer because he's the elected official. Like, yeah, you go down. So it makes you wonder, those are the moments politicians look for. So you got to think, why wouldn't he want to go that route? Either way, the full interview is up there. It's on a Converge Media YouTube page, Facebook page, and even on IG. Producer Nikki Barron put the whole thing up there on IG. The whip. Mm-hmm. We're going to take a short break right now, and man, I'm out the hot seat, and we've got Gusti Clark from Career Therapy coming in, give some advice. We need jobs in our community. So instead of talking about it, we being about it. We've got an expert here to talk about that. So Gusti is up next, and we got some promos that are coming on right now. We got chats with Trey again, and Vote Black Love 2020.
Got great shows coming up on Converge. Great stuff.
All right. You are watching the Morning Update Show.
Chats with Trey. Chats with Trey. Chats with Trey.
the Yard Bros. I'm Taco.
I'm Tia.
And this is our love story.
So we've been together for 14 years and married for 12.
So we met at a choir rehearsal.
No.
Which way?
We met at church.
Oh, you talking about the very first?
The very first interaction.
When you were shady. Okay.
I was not shady.
And I was like, will you?
I remember that.
And then it cuts off, and then I was like, marry me. And then I feel the roars.
But it stopped being about each other. And so COVID helped us to return to, wow.
We matter. You and I matter.
Yeah. Thank you for listening to our love story.
We're the Yard Bros.
And Vote Black Love.
Converge Media produces culturally relevant content for Black and urban audiences. Our coverage is raw, transparent, and objective, praised by community leaders, government officials, and residents. Support Converge Media today via Venmo, CashApp, or PayPal at Converge Media. Welcome back, everybody, to the Morning Update Show. I'm your co-host, Trey Holiday, and I'm really excited. We have been following up on how bad COVID has wrecked our communities, so I'm so happy to bring on Gusti Clark of Career Therapy. Thank you so much, Gusti, for being here today.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm happy to be here.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this is something that we have stayed our finger on the pulse of.
Yeah.
I'm sure you have. Let's let the people know a little bit about who Career Therapy is. What is this business and why did you start it?
Yes, for sure. Thank you. So Career Therapy is a career and leadership coaching business, and we specialize in helping people either grow or transition in their careers. So I've spent about the last, 15, 18 years of my career in the areas of HR, training and development, and recruitment. And I used to see oftentimes in the corporate world how people would get passed over for positions or they're so qualified and they didn't get the opportunity to move on. So I was like, oh no, people need access to the information and to the opportunity. So I wanted to step outside of corporate world to be able to help people really do that. So then I founded Career Therapy because, as we all know, I mean, especially considering the times right now, we feel bad. Like if you've been laid off, that's one thing, but then there's the stigma about it, and then how do we recover and go through all of that? So that's why it's Career Therapy, because it's not just the logistics of let's get your resume going, let's get your profile going, but also how do you work through that? How do you repackage your skill sets and really move on to the role that was really meant for you, or whatever it is you wanted to do and moving forward in your career?
Man, that is so helpful. I know even for myself, I struggled there when I was leaving one job in corporate and trying to enter into a new industry. And I remember I even used an outside agency service, and the women there were amazing. I ended up dealing with these two twins, and they were just fabulous. But I do feel that there's a specific thing that you're talking about in terms of your understanding of how people were missed out opportunities. So I love that you have Career Therapy for folks. You have some amazing slides for us that I know we want to get through so we can get these tips out to the audience.
Yes,
DQ, let's start with slide 1, which I know is just the beginning. But really, each one of these is designed to really give some tips to folks, right?
That's right. So the first thing I would tell everyone to do is you need to be taking inventory of your skill set, okay? And what I mean by that is we like to refer to these as competencies, okay? Competencies are a combination of what your natural talents are, what you're actually truly interested in, where you're gifted at, okay? That's what we call competencies. So we need to be examining and really digging deep into what that is. How do how do your friends and family know you? What are you known for, right? And that's a great way to kind of identify what those skill sets are. I like to look at it from a higher perspective in terms of how does that translate into different organizations and companies, okay? So considering all things right now, a lot of companies are kind of phasing out, especially some of the industries, and we now have to kind of figure it out and move forward. So first things first, take inventory in what you're really good at and what you actually like to do. Perhaps you did accounting before, but you actually don't really like that. But what you are great at is the analytics or the high-focused attention to detail. Those are the things you can take with you moving on to different industries.
Wow.
Right?
And then the next tip here is about personal branding. I know a lot of folks, me myself, I'm working on this. So this slide was really helpful for me. DQ, let's show that one.
Yeah, personal branding is everything, especially right now. There are so many more people in the workforce right now that we're kind of competing with that we didn't always have to, right? So it was always under 10%, so to speak, of the people that we're trying to compete with for the next role, right? But now there's a lot more people in the workforce. So how exactly are you standing out? And that's what you need to be doing and thinking about in terms of how to brand yourself as the professional. So it doesn't matter what the actual role is, whether you're an individual contributor or if you're a manager or director. The point is, what is your area of focus? Are you a project management professional? That can go with you at any industry or any career. It doesn't matter. But who are you, the professional? So when you spend time focusing on what those skill sets are and what you actually like to do, which direction are you wanting to move in, and that's what you start to brand yourself as. And that's one of the things we help our clients with all the time is how do we rebrand and repackage, right? So even before COVID happened, there were a lot of people who would be in their careers for 15 years or doing the same thing, and they're just getting kind of burnt out, or they're like, I want more earning potential or whatever. And so how do I move forward to where I really want to be? Personal branding will help you get there.
Wow, wow. Oh, so much insight into this. And then really next you have here, it's all in who knows you. Networking is key. Let's make sure we show that one, DQ.
Absolutely.
So a lot of folks know this now. I mean, it's been definitely on the rise since social media. What is this all about?
Yes, so the thing about the networking, this has changed quite a bit. I'm sure you guys have all been feeling the sting of this, right? In the past, when you work for companies, you would be able to go to conferences or meetings and meet different people, right? Now everything's digital, so it's digital networking that you have to do. You have to take the extra steps to start cultivating relationships. I'd say reach out to people who are in positions you want and start reaching out to them to have conversations. We have to bring back the informational interviews because that's how we're really able to cultivate those conversations. Because again, if there's all these people who are applying for the same role, how is the recruiter going to help understand that you're the one who's right for it, right? So we're looking for people who can kind of vouch for us, who can mentor and or sponsor us into those roles, and that is how you do it. We have to bring back that informational interview, start reaching out to people, and it doesn't matter where they're at geographically, right? So you can meet somebody who's over in New York, but you have no idea who they're connected to or who they know or whatever, but it's a global world, right? So we need to be connecting and being way more aggressive about that, right? We can't just be sitting back passive anymore and expecting that we can just send resumes and just get the job. Those days are behind us now.
Wow, wow. And that leads us right to what so many people think is all of the networking tools in social media. I mean, it has exploded so much, so many different apps and a lot of different ways for people to get in. Let's help folks navigate that.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, there's several different platforms exactly. One of my favorites is LinkedIn. The reason why I like LinkedIn is because it's separate from maybe some of our more personal stuff that we might be posting on Facebook, right? And we want recruiters to look specifically at our work experience and history, right? So also recruiters have their own platform that they're doing searches for, and they're looking for certain keywordings and things like that. So we certainly want to make sure that we're leveraging all of these free tools to help get in front of different employers, different recruiters, and things like that. So definitely, have that presence there and make sure, again, just to go back over it again, get back to what are those skill sets, what are those things you're naturally good at that you like to do, and that's what we want to be branding yourself as, that particular professional, so that the employers can find you and you can start uncovering some new opportunities.
Well, I mean, I'm so glad that you came on today. Again, with all of the tips that you just laid out, I think it's so important that we understand folks need this kind of pathway right now. I want to ask you, before we have to, get out of here, obviously COVID, it is wrecking probably the industries of what we know as of employment right now. And how is that shifting and changing how you're reaching out to clients and how you're helping clients right now in this time.
Right. So absolutely, this is certainly a time of opportunity. So again, when there's crisis, like that was already mentioned earlier, that means that there's opportunity somewhere, but we have to look for it, right? We have to create it. We have to start searching, right? And by doing so, we have to start connecting with people to start figuring things out and kind of where those opportunities lie. Also for the companies, they're still trying to figure things out too. So sometimes, even if they don't have the exact job written up for you, by you connecting with people, perhaps they could write up a new job description for you or create the opportunity because you have expertise that they are looking for, right? So no longer are there days where we're shy and just waiting for these jobs to pop up, but that's why, like, going through those informational interviews, you can see what's happening with companies or where those gaps are and try to, like, say, okay, well, I'm really good at this, or what about, have you thought about these solutions? And they're going to go, oh, look at this person. Let's bring them in for an interview and let's see what we could do with that, right? So those are the opportunities that we want to be looking for so we can move ourselves forward.
Yeah,
that's absolutely. How it works.
Well, also, I have to ask you, too, as a beautiful black woman, sprinkling your black girl magic here onto our set, you know, we talk about disparities often here, you know, economic disparity. Employment is a part of that. We see the tech boom industry being right here, so centrally located in the Pacific Northwest, and it having such a almost negative impact in our communities. As a black woman, how important is it that your business also represent and open up those pathways for young black folks or BIPOC folks to get into some of these positions?
Absolutely critical. So my thing is always about access to information, okay? So that's one of the reasons why we haven't been always able to progress in our careers or do the things that we've wanted to do, because we haven't always had access, right? So some people will block information or just not be as forthcoming in sharing. So now the opportunity is to be able to have that access. So career therapy has really stepped into that space and being able to do that and kind of knocking down doors. We're also partnering with a couple of new groups and trying to open up these doors a whole lot more and provide some more opportunities and access to this information, because information is key. We're also meeting with employers to help them understand the impacts of being able to hire in the black community, and there's tons of people with all these skill sets, right, and helping get them into these companies as well. But that's why I love what I do and being a career coach, because I'm helping people repackage their information in a way that makes sense to the employer so they can understand, oh my God, that is the perfect person, right? Because we don't always speak corporate speak. You're at work, you do what you do, and you do it well. So to help understand, though, how that translates for the recruiter or over in corporate, so that they understand this is the person who is perfect for this job, instead of just always going to the same sources they've always been going to, and that isn't working, right? So they also understand that they need to take more measures too. But career therapy, like I mentioned, we're partnering with other groups to be able to open up these doors a whole lot more and access to the opportunities and jobs, because that's how we take back our buying power.
That's right. Absolutely.
Yes, and earn more.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I'm so happy that you were able to come onto the set today. Before we go, you can let the folks know how they reach you. How do they find career therapy?
Yes, thank you so much for having me. You can find us at www.careertherapyforme.com. I'd be happy to speak with anyone who's interested in growing or transitioning into new arenas. You can also find more resources on our website. So be sure to reach out if you have a need, and we'll be happy to help.
Well, thank you so much, Gusti Clark, Career Therapy. Wow, that was a great career therapy session for me, y'all. I hope you guys enjoyed that. I'm so excited to continue this episode because we are bringing the Reverend Harriett Walden of Mothers for Police Accountability. I'm so excited that her and OMARI will be right here after the break. You're watching the Morning Update Show.
We're the Yard Bros. I'm Taco.
I'm Tia.
And this is our love story.
So we've been together for 14 years and married for 12.
So we met at a choir rehearsal.
No.
Which way?
We met at church.
Oh, okay. You talking about the very first?
The very first interaction.
When you were shady. Okay.
I was not shady.
And I was like, will you? And then it cuts off. And then I was like, marry me. And then I peeled these bars.
But it stopped being about each other. And so COVID helped us to return to, wow,
We matter. You and I matter.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you for listening to our love story.
We're the Yarbroughs
and Vote Black Love.
Converge Media produces culturally relevant content for Black and urban audiences. Our coverage is raw, transparent, and objective, praised by community leaders, government officials, and residents. Support Converge Media today via Venmo, CashApp, or PayPal at Converge Media.
All right, welcome back to the Morning Update Show. My name is OMARI SALISBURY, and I'll be honest with you, it's an honor and a pleasure joined here today. Well, first of all, by my mom. Yeah. Reverend Harriett Walden. But you know, I see on the stream everybody's like, "Hey, Rev Walden," but you know, I'm fortunate enough I get to call you Mom. What's up, Mom?
Hey, how you doing today?
Man. Welcome to the show.
Well, thank you. Thank you.
It's your first time on the Morning Update Show.
It is.
I know it was a few different times we were supposed to connect, but it's your first time here.
It is, yeah.
I'm excited to have you. A bit nervous as well.
Oh, well, it's all good.
It's all good, huh?
It's all good.
All right. Well, you know, today's Throwback Thursday, and, you know, Triana talked about as a founder of Mothers for Police Accountability 3 decades ago.
Yes.
And even now today, commissioner and co-chair of the Community Police Commission. So three decades later. And actually, Mothers for Police Accountability back then was called Mothers Against Police Harassment.
Mm-hmm.
And it started right here in the Central District.
That's right.
Right here in the CD.
Yeah, that's right.
So our time is a bit short today, unfortunately, but we're gonna jump right into, and it's Throwback Thursday. So basically, what I'm doing is we're setting a timeline here, and kind of go through time, and then we're gonna discuss what's going on right now with Mothers for Police Accountability, what you got going on, and kind of the current state of things. That's okay with you?
Yeah.
All right. Well, the first clip is a few minutes long, but it sets the stage. This is just about 30 years ago, and what happened is that the Seattle Police Department pulled over my brother and some friends in front of our house there on 29th and Jackson. And man, I was 15 years old. They ended up taking us to jail, and man, the police beat us up at the East Precinct, you know, and then charged us and some of everything else. Long story, but that happened in 1990. This is an actual show from Network X. Dave Fisher, rest in peace. I was a freshman in college when this interview was recorded. I think you can actually find the whole interview on the Converge social media pages. But this is Network X from 1994, talking about the incident that happened in 1990.
Well, the case came about after an incident on August 5th, 1990, when the Seattle, a rookie police officer stopped, did a U-turn on Jackson to write a ticket to some young boys coming home from an event. And as a result of him making that stop, he called for backup, and it was a lot of heated conversations, and eventually 4 boys was arrested and roughed up. 2 of the boys were. 2 of the boys that was kind of roughed up was my sons. And out of that, because of that incident, we formed an organization called Mothers Against Police Harassment, and the criminal charges was dropped against OMARI, but we were suing the city for violating his civil rights, and that's the case that we're here talking about.
It was August 5th, 1990. My brother, 3 friends were coming back from the Black Community Festival. It was the last evening, And it's right when they were turning the corner of 29th and Jackson coming to our house, the officer, Atkins, he said he saw a burnt-out license plate lamp. He decided to bust a U-turn and stop him right there in front of our house. So my brother's two friends got out the car and came into the yard. Now, being the rookie cop that he was and scared and paranoid of black people, I don't know, I don't know what's going on.
Possibly that.
Possibly. Okay. By his action, he called for backup. 14 officers, 8 patrol cars came to the scene. The whole G sector, that's the whole sector that patrols the Central District, and 2 Charlie sector officers arrived to the scene of 29th and Jackson for a burnt-out license plate lamp. From there, the situation just escalated. The officers, it was a real experience for me. That was my first time really dealing with the police on that scale. Some of the comments we heard, I remember one officer, a sergeant, well, an acting sergeant, I suppose he still isn't a sergeant, but challenged my brother, do you want to fight? Do you want a piece of me? And this and that. So we had a heated debate going on back and forth because my brother, he was an honor student in Garfield that year, graduated in 90. He was going to the University of Redlands. Another one of the fellas was going to the University of Washington, just graduated for his electrical engineering degree, and 2 other fellas, were on their way. And that was our argument. They're college students. What are you stopping them for? They haven't broken any laws. What's the big deal for 14 officers?
14.
And so from there, I guess they decided to arrest us. We were too big of a public nuisance for them. And they grabbed me first down the stairs. At that time, I wore glasses trying to look pretty for your TV show.
Okay, so you weren't actually in the car. You were what, in the house?
They were in the car. I was in the house. I saw my brother being stopped by the police, and I came outside.
Okay.
To join in with him. From there, after the arrest, during the arrest, I was grabbed. I was about 4 steps up. They grabbed me off the stairs, slammed me onto the police car. My glasses, which I was wearing then, came off, and I got really poor vision. I was pretty disoriented from there. But
now, was this one police officer that grabbed you?
Oh, yeah, it was one police officer at first, and there was another officer assisted him. And I was slammed onto the car, hit my chest, then my head, and my arrest was affected. And they got 2 other people. Then my brother last. They shackled his hands and feet. He was transported that way to the East Precinct. We went in front of Judge Carroll. I believe he's the police auditor now.
Police, monitor.
Well, we went in front of Judge Carroll.
Or PR man.
And the case, it was dismissed in under 10 minutes in court. The case was dismissed. But what gets me is that the police department made a big deal over misdemeanor charges. I was charged with obstruction of justice.
Obstruction of justice.
Let's see, police harassment, which meant that the police officers were scared of a 15-year-old boy in a T-shirt, shorts, and tennis shoes with no shorts on. Mind you, 14 armed police officers were scared of a skinny little 15-year-old kid. I was charged with police harassment, obstruction of justice, and I'm forgetting the other charge now.
So you're saying 4 teenagers against 14 police?
Yeah.
And you guys harassed these police, apparently?
Yeah, apparently we harassed these officers. In order to get a harassment charge from the police, that means those police officers were scared for their lives. So us 4 men, back then we were boys. I still don't consider myself a man yet. Back then, boys, we were going to cause bodily harm to them with all 14 guns against us, shotguns in the car and all that. So we got that charge, but they brought out the top prosecutor, Jim Wesley. They brought out the top prosecutor for misdemeanor charges.
This is a juvenile prosecutor?
This is juvenile.
Okay.
They brought out their top juvenile prosecutor for misdemeanor charges. These weren't even felony offenses. They were misdemeanor charges. But Judge Terrence Carroll dismissed the charges, and from there we went on to a civil case.
Now, obviously, he dismissed it for lack of evidence, or what?
He dismissed. Well, there was a 911 tape that the police were relying on for their police harassment charge. The police had alleged that we were cussing them out and threatening to kill them and this and that. Well, of course not. We weren't doing that. But they alleged that it was on a 911 tape. One of the officers in a sworn deposition, which is admissible in a court proceeding, said, "Yeah, I heard him. You can hear him on the tape." So we said, "Cool, let us hear the tape." We made numerous. We asked the prosecution to supply us with the tape. All we wanted the tape. Let us hear the tape. Well, for some reason, it fell on deaf ears and the tape was erased. So we never got to hear the evidence. And it's what you call exculpatory evidence. I'm sorry if my pronunciation is a little wrong. That means that the evidence might help the defense, which we were in that case. And because the tape was destroyed, we weren't able to get the evidence off the tape that would help our case, the defense. And so Judge Terrence Carroll dismissed the case.
Man, look at that, Mom.
Yeah.
All those years ago, 3 decades.
Yep.
You know, I used to tell people, and it's still valid right now, in the Central District, in the early '90s, you know, it was wild, man. It was weed and seed out here. I mean, man, it was, the police had no regard in our community.
You're being jacked all the time.
I wasn't the first person to get jacked by, as you say, jacked by the police.
Right.
You had the police come through in the Astro vans. They used to jump out the vans and everything, take pictures. Actually, got a thing about that. But it was like, my mom was the one who was like, and it was like, you know, you had your own career going and everything else, but you were like, yo, man, I need to take a stand for my children's rights and for rights to other people. And 3 decades ago, you started what is now Mothers for Police Accountability. And I always felt so fortunate in that there's a lot of people that we know who we know it's gone all bad, but they never had the support like I had. And you, man, you didn't have to do what you did, and you're still out here. You're still out here doing what you do.
Well, you know, one thing about, thank you so much, is yeah, because you know why. At that time, they wanted to say all our kids are gang members are bad. I mean, you know, somebody had to stand up for kids who was doing everything right. You know, and the police was jacking kids, and we need to let people know what jacking means. And they made you get out the car, take the position, and put guns to your head.
100%.
That's what was going on in the central area.
100%.
That's what was going on in 1990, all the way up to 1993. That was going on, and asking people to, they were taking pictures of young black kids, putting them in the car, call them the fur report, and then they roll up on you, and they see you, take a picture, put it in the car, and then everybody, and it goes out that you were a gang member, when you had no gang affiliation at all that stuff that was going on.
Right, and if you recall, at the time, because of weed and seed, police departments were getting federal dollars based upon the number of active gang members that they had. And so what the Seattle Police Department would do at the time, they jump out of the Astro van and they'd sit there and take your picture. The police were trying to, and it was a whole campaign. And actually, let me, I'm gonna skip to number 13, Daryl. There was a whole campaign that mothers at the time had pushed to tell people, it's like, man, it's not okay for the police to sit there and take a picture of somebody and they're not under arrest. If they're not arresting them there. Could put up number 13, Daryl? This was, you know, it's funny, people talk about the National Lawyers Guild right now. They're playing a big part in the protests and everything else. People see them with the neon green hats. This is from the National Lawyer Guild newsletter in 1991. Is that what it says there, Daryl? 1991. Written by Lynn Wilson.
Our attorney.
And so
she's still with us.
1991 was 30 years ago. Yeah. So when people hear National Lawyers Guild right now, they might think it's some new thing on the scene. The National Lawyers Guild 30 years ago was working with you to be able to get information out here in the Central District to black youths and their parents in the Central District that the police, what their tactic at the time was to take the pictures of black youth, especially black men who were not under arrest, to be able to take that photo and say that they were gang members to be able to get federal dollars. That's right. And it was mothers at the time, Mothers Against Police Harassment and the National Lawyers Guild. That's right. They got this information out. Right. You saw there in that clip, it was black. This was old school newsletter, so it went into the mail and it got handed out. So I mean, it's kind of interesting because, unfortunately, a lot of the work hasn't changed.
Right. Right.
And it's just the means of it.
That's right. That's right. And in some places, we made some 1 steps and 2 steps back. So, I mean, clearly there has been some changes, but it has not been changed enough. because we're dealing with, as everybody say, an institution that continuously was built on hatred, and it's still there. But I know personally that we have some good officers and some good people who are actually trying to do good things, and they're working in a system that's polluted, but they stay because they want to do something about it and to stay in there over time. You know, I've developed that, and one of the things we've done is that we stayed at the table. We never took our marbles and went home. We stayed at the table because if a change was going to be made, we knew that somebody had to stay with the consistency of staying. And you know what made us so popular is that we always told the truth. If mothers said it, it was truth. We never wanted to disappoint the people. So many times in leadership, people say something, and then they find out that the people are not telling the truth. And we wanted to be the organization that says if mothers said it, it was true. We built our career on that.
Yes, ma'am. And we got a section here where we could talk about, further expand upon what's going on right now in policing. So number 12 now, Daryl, if you could bring that one up. So this was 1991. The ACLU, almost 30 years ago, the ACLU, the Civil Libertarian Award right here, you and Janice Bell, one of the co-founders of, at the time, Mothers Against Police Harassment. And so, again, people talk about the ACLU. I've been going back and forth with the ACLU during the protests and everything else. 30 years ago, you won the ACLU Civil Libertarian Award.
And we've had a long relationship with the ACLU. They're one of the first groups that we worked with since after the Red Scare, the McCarthy years. We were the first group that they had a coalition with, and they're very, very helpful for us, them and the Defenders Association. Because remember, you wouldn't remember, but we were novice. We didn't know anything about policing, at all. But we knew that we were on the right side of history. I didn't know how to write the complaints. Other people helped us with the complaints. We needed to know something about the law that we didn't understand. It's called the ACLU. Julia was working there then. Then I would call the Defenders Association, Bob Brookowitz, and somebody always in the Defender's office always called us back. Then we started with we went to late night. We created what you do when you get stopped by the police.
I remember that.
You know, and we were teaching people. We had like attorneys out there.
They call them teach-ins now.
That's right.
Well, doing a long time
we were out late nights and stuff like that, just trying to tell people what their rights are and let them know they didn't have to get their pictures taken, and what to do when they get stopped by the police. And one thing we wanted to tell them, the most macho thing you can do is to be quiet, because everything you say will be used against you. Because when they write up their report, they're going to lie. So the best thing you can do is say, may I have an attorney? Am I a suspect of a crime? If I am, I need an attorney. If not, am I free to go? That's what we were doing a long time ago.
Long time ago. These days, I guess you look at an app. But
yeah, they got an app now. But we had to look cards, and we were out on the streets at night. Whenever the police stopped somebody, us little women. Fish Simon, and this is our Carmen Best was our 8th police chief. Fish Simon used to say, these little old women, he said, if they had husbands, they would be home. That's what he would say. He said, these little old women, they don't have no husbands. That's why they out making trouble for the police. Is what Fish Simon, the police chief, would say. And then they moved it. They watched us for 2 years.
Yeah,
they moved across the street in 29th in Washington to watch us to see if we were bad, what kind of women we were. And on Friday night, we would stand in the window and pull up ZZ Hill. What is the blues by ZZ Hill, and we would be dancing in the window, and they'd be watching us. They watched us for 2 years, but they couldn't get nothing on it. I suspect we got a file somewhere.
I don't think that people today would not recognize what policing in Seattle was 30 years ago.
No, it would not. No, it would not.
Man, the police used to, I'm sorry, man, the police used to jump and whip people's ass.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
That's right. With no body cameras.
Like real deal. You know what I'm saying? You had officers who moved around, and like RoboCop. Right?
That's right. That's what you call them.
But he that was his, man, he embodied
that.
That's
right.
I mean, it was crazy.
It was crazy.
If people would have seen what policing was like here 30 years, being in high school at Garfield, man, and it was, woo, it's something else.
Yeah.
Now, I got a clip right here where people also don't realize, before all of this stuff, back almost a half century ago, you know, that you and my dad started SALISBURY Photography.
That's right.
You know, with the help of Mr. Fitzgerald
Mr.
Beaver.
Fitzgerald, that's right.
What a wonderful man. Mr.
Rest in
Fitzgerald
peace. Yes.
Beaver was. For you guys that don't know, the Fax newspaper was started by Mr. Fitzgerald
That's
Beaver.
right. Mm-hmm.
So he started SALISBURY Photography over 50 years ago, the very first black photography studio in the Pacific Northwest. You know, right over here off of 23rd. And I bring that up because even now, and I know you don't ever like me to tell your age on TV, so I won't.
It's all good.
But even now, if you put up this clip number 14, Daryl, even now, you know, you're still finding a way, getting your message out and everything else. You host a show every week on KKNW, 11:50 a.m. KKNW. The Mother's Justice Show, got a few shots in there of me and you when you've had me out there. I tell people all the time, you know, a lot of people, when the protest came up, Mom, a lot of people were like, "Oh, it's the citizen journalist guy. Must have been sitting at home with his cell phone." And now he said, people don't realize. Yes, I've had a 20-year career before Seattle Protest 2020 started.
That's right.
But also on top of that, you know, I mean, I tell people, it's like, man, media is in me. It's not on me. Going all the way back, you know, a half a century ago, and to the fact that my mom still has her show. You guys need to tune in every Tuesday from 2 to 3 p.m. on
Monday.
11. Oh, I'm sorry, you're
Monday.
right. You know, you're always on point. Every Monday from 2 to 3 at 11:50 a.m. KKNW. And I
had a little radio show on what a speakeasy. Remember, I had the low wattage. I was on the air. That's right. I go
pirate radio.
I was on pirate radio. I was doing music.
Yeah, so it's not happenstance. It's not anything like that. That we end up, you know, like I said, right here. And I tell people all the time, my mama's show is usually way more organized than mine any day. So I got a clip right here for today. Basically, this was in the CHOP. This was June 9th of this year. You can put that one up there, June 9th of this year, and you came and you visited the CHOP. And you know, the CHOP is a place that when it was up there, a lot of people stayed away, especially a lot of legacy people, a lot of legacy leaders and everything else. They never made it into the CHOP. Why did you come to the CHOP?
Well, I came number one because my son was there, and I wanted to make sure that you know that you were all right, you know, and you know, and that number one, and I wanted to see what it looked like. I mean, I wanted to be there, and I wanted to just. I wanted to understand that.
Oh, there it is. Okay,
yeah,
we got it up on the screen right there.
Yeah, I just came up there. I wanted to see. Wanted to see what the protest was, and to make sure that I wanted to see my son and know that he was all right. And I wanted to meet Bobby Steele. Bobby, I wanted to meet. Hey, Bobby. He says, Bobby, you know, I need the postman. I need something. And this guy shows up, and I thought he was not Santa Claus, but who was this guy? He's always showing up. I need this guy. I need some water, you know. And I said, well, did he have a grocery store in his pocket? You know. And then he needed the mask, and you know, he said, who's this guy bringing my son all this stuff? He must have a van somewhere. He got a van full of protest equipment. Yeah, that's what it seemed like, you know. So I just needed to come up there, and you know, I'm sorry that a lot of folks didn't come, because I think they missed a real opportunity to come up there and you know, and just to pass out water and to do some other kinds of things.
Yeah, and I think that a lot of people realize when people were saying that the protests, I mean, the actual minutes of police interaction or hours of police interaction compared to the actual hours of protest is very small. And I think is why I wrote a blog post about it at the time, that I think people missed an opportunity, not necessarily to be on the front. It's crazy on the front line. I wouldn't want my mama on the front line. You know what I'm saying?
No,
but there are so
especially
many
when
things
he said, share the stream, share it, you know, share it, call the mayor, call everybody.
Yeah, I mean, but you know, and you're right. That day, that night, it was something that Seattle had really never seen in a residential neighborhood.
No.
And the only thing that I could think of was, man, we have to, you know, I mean, the mayor controls the police at the end of the day. You know what I'm saying? Everybody, man, tweet the mayor, calm it down. That's what you're supposed to do. I mean, I'm like, yo, man, there's way too much tear gas out here. That's what my mama would do. My mama
you know,
Jenny, now you know it's too much.
I did. I called her.
See?
I called her. I mean, I called her up and said, you know, you need to stop it.
See?
I stop it, you know, stop it. That's what I said, you know. I got that number on speed dial. My boy's up there. Let's cut that out.
It comes on. You know, that day with that picture, you know, I posted something here on the Instagram and said my mom came to visit me, and her words, be brave, be honest, be fair, and bring your butt home safe.
Yeah, you know, yeah.
You know, and before I go on to this next slide here, man, you know, this is the first time that I've actually seen a lot of this footage. Has been the last few days. We put it out. We never really looked again for a lot of different reasons. And we put up the slide 2 or 3 days ago that showed the tear gas on Capitol Hill.
Right.
And I'm wheezing there, and you can barely breathe.
Yep.
And man, I wanted to tell you, I'm sorry. Like, I mean, it took on a whole different kind, you know, because you let me know when you get home safe.
But every night, for 30 nights or 40 nights or how many nights or whatever nights you were out there, I mean, I did not go to bed until you tell me you were safe. And then that last time when they used whatever it was, that your skin was burning from all that Saturday night, and you know,
July 25th.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Well, you know, I never thought that you know, Seattle police would act to be totally out of compliance. I mean, it's what they've done. I mean, it's like they threw the baby out with the bathwater, and the officers knew better. A lot of them did. You know.
Yeah, I mean, and speaking of that, OPA is supposed to actually rule on a few cases tomorrow. But I wanted to tell you that it isn't until, and it's traumatizing to actually watch this footage. Yeah. We were trying to do a clip every day this week, but I was like, man, I can't watch this, you know. And so I can only imagine you watching it.
I never watched it. Well, I couldn't. I mean, you know, as I say, I protect myself from some things, but I always have people who give me a blow-by-blow description.
Yeah, shout out to Darnell Hitler, brother.
You know, I get people that call me up, and the same way when all the electives showed up there that Saturday night, people kept calling me, he's all right, you know, he's all right, and that kind of stuff. But I just have this way of, if I watch it, it'll do something to me that I won't be able to move the next day.
I'm glad you ain't watching
so I did watch it the other day. The other day when you put it on was the first time I'd ever watched it, and it looked like Beirut.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, really, it really did. It looked like a real war zone. I mean, and to know that we paid them. They got paid by us that day, you know, I mean, to be able to do that, you know, because they're not public servant. I am. They're public employees. We need to change the language. All city employees, they're public employees, and to spray people that way, and the media was clearly. I mean, you know, we're always clearly marked, you know, with our skin. But the media were clearly marked with their vest on and with their.
No doubt, they worked the media over July 25th. What?
Yeah, they did. You know, they were clearly, just like, oh, okay. But through all of that, I'm going to keep my humanity. I will never, ever, ever go down to the level of the enemy or the people who hate me. Never.
Amen.
I will never, ever, ever crawl on my belly. I will never, ever treat somebody the way they've treated me. It's my principle, it's my character, and it's my training. My grandmother taught me to never be a hater. Best thing she ever taught me. Her first husband got lynched by some white people. But she told me, you'll never be a hater. I walk through life, I will never waste my time hating white people. Never. And I don't care what happens, I will never go there. Never.
You know, it's I think a lot of people might get it honest. To see why I get it honest, you know, there's a lot of people who saw a lot of this footage and like, man, how come you're not more vicious and you're not more this, you're not more that? And I tell them, man, like, hate don't dwell in my heart. You know what I'm saying? Like, I make my moves, believe me. But, you know, it's not hate that gets me out of the bed every morning. It's, you know.
For me, it's love. What gets me out of bed every morning is the little children. You know that we don't see them at the bus stop right now, but we would. They got bright eyes. They got bright eyes. I work for the children because you know what? They are so idealistic. The children are the only people in the world that believes a stranger that they don't know is going to come to their house on Christmas. They believe that. That's the belief I want to have. I want to believe that. I want to believe like the children do. That's why I get up. I don't care what. They're still full of hope, you know. And we miss seeing the bus stops. We miss seeing the little pretty dresses and the little kids all bushy and bright. That's what I work for. I work for them. I might not be out there with them right now, but my prayer for them, I work for them, and that's what gets me up in the morning. It's like, wow, these children. And I worry about the education. That's the next thing I'm going to be on. Our children are going to be left behind because all the parents are not equal. See? So it's for the children. I know it's a better world because I'm part of I'm creating it. It's all in consciousness. Whatever you want, you got to create it. So I'm creating that world.
Man, I got so many more. I think maybe Bobby Stills can produce a special down there. Me and you, Mom. Before I let you go here, I know there's a lot of people probably very interested in your opinion. 30 years in this ecosystem here. It started off with a Fitzsimmons who said that you women need to go get some husbands and stay out the police business, all the way to a Chief Carmen Best, who 26, 27 years. So imagine Chief Best. You were on the outside of that police system. Chief Best was on the inside of that police system, underneath Fitzsimmons, and transgressed through it. Chief Best is now retired. We have Chief Adrian Diaz there. Any of your thoughts on Chief Best as far as her career, her exit from the Seattle Police Department, and then Chief Diaz looking into the future?
Well, I was really, we worked really hard to get Carmen to be the police chief, and I like to always let people know why. One of the reasons why is because they changed the rules, and they said if you bring in a new police chief, he's going to bring in a whole command staff. So everybody in the command staff would have been bussed back to a captain. And that means that Carmen would never, ever get up the ladder again, actually, to be assistant chief unless you serve at that pleasure. But Carmen worked her way up. She was a decent person. Carmen did a good job. I mean, she was only there for 2 years, and it's amazing how the community hold her hostage for 2 years and let Fish Simon and everybody else who absolutely cemented this system this way.
Built the culture.
Built a getaway. O2 was here for 4 years. Nobody talks about what she did or did not do. And so what I saw out there, my own honest opinion of doing this for 30 years, I saw the police do a mutiny. The best way to get a police chief out is do a mutiny. They did that on Norm Stamper and WTO. They stood down and let people tear up downtown. Nobody was ever arrested. They did the same thing this time, starting on May 29th. Also, there was a change in the guard. The new President Gill is a guy who wants to make America great again. Kevin Stuckey was a black guy. I just know under Kevin Stuckey's watch, what we saw out there would not have happened because he would have had a lot more control in what the police officers did, or was making sure that didn't happen. And so what we saw was the police, making America great again, also being hardliners. I mean, because a lot of the police officers did not want to be up on the consent decree. They did file a case, and the case was dismissed. But unfortunately for Seattle, up until May 24th, the city was in compliance with all of the standards almost and they were trying to get from under up under the consent decree. They had filed, the Community Police Commission, we filed to ask the judge not to allow them to come out from under the consent decree because of the accountability system piece that was still dangling out there. But Carmen is retired, and I believe that Chief Adrian Diaz is going to do a great job. I really do. I mean, I think he's going to do a good job. I mean, you know, police officers, the police chief has a tough way to go. I mean, it serves at the pleasure of the police, but the contract is between the city and the police officers, not the police chief. And people think they think it's differently, but it's not. See, the chief serves at the pleasure of the mayor. See.
Right. Man, well, like I said, thank you. I appreciate you. You know, it was tough last night looking at all these the historical, looking at your website, Mothers for Police Accountability.
Thank you.
And it was tough because, you know, I mean, sometimes we move too fast, and we don't live in the moment. And I've seen a 30 years of dedication and commitment. And like I said, it was a lot of people's kids who was getting smacked up by the SPD 30 years ago. But you took a stand. And, you know, what started off as just some little ladies in the Central District. Now, you know what I'm saying, 30 years later, you know, you stand tall out there.
Thank you.
And, you know, and I'm glad that you came out there even when the chop was there. You showed a lot of leadership in the community. You were present, and that's what matters. You know, you were present there. And, man, thank you, Mom.
Well, thank you. You're welcome. And, you know, I did what I had to do, and nobody's standing up. I had to stand up for my kids. You know, somebody had to stand up for kids. You know, we weren't gang members, you know, and we were just regular people. So, hey, I stood up for my children. And in the process, I stood up for all the children in Seattle. And for many people we've helped, not only children, but we helped so many people we've helped over the years. Went to court with people. The judges knew when I step in the courtroom, people know there's something wrong with the case. I don't use my chips often, but when I step in the courtroom, you're going to find some action in there. Because, like I said, we tell the truth, and yes, we force the public defenders on some cases to put some investigators out there, so we can get the truth out here, and everybody, you know. So yeah, but we did all this, and we had no training. You know, we're not attorneys, but we've had good people. God always sent good people. We've had good people. We had people to be with us. Lynn Wilson has been with me 28 years, that attorney that wrote that article. Lonnie Nelson, late Lonnie Nelson, she was with me for 22 years. She passed away, you know. So we've all grown up, all got, you know, we've all matured doing justice work. Yeah. If we could have fixed it 30 years ago, we would have, but it's a continuing. I take a long view of history. It took 157 years for me and you to be in this room together. Mm. You know.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, Mom.
Thank you, son.
We're going to take a very, very quick break right now, and we'll be right back. You're watching the Morning Update Show.
Okay.
Converge Media produces culturally relevant content for Black and urban audiences. Our coverage is raw, transparent, and objective, praised by community leaders, government officials, and residents. Support Converge Media today via Venmo, CashApp, or PayPal at Converge Media. Your mom had me in tears off the set. I just gotta say, honestly, she really has become such a mentor for me and really represents some of these like legacy elders we have in the Central District community. It's phenomenal, man. I know you could go on and on with her.
Yeah. Want to say, man, thank you to everybody. I know we went a bit long today, but definitely for a good reason. You know, a few programming notes tonight at, I think, 8 o'clock, but we'll send out a notice. We did a preview show for OPA. Now, the director of OPA is releasing some of the findings for some of the cases around May 30th. So we did a preview show. We're going to air that tonight as what is OPA, how does it work, you know, what's the process and everything else. And then it's going to air at 8 o'clock tonight. And then also tomorrow at 2 o'clock is Chats with Trey.
Yes,
so we've got that going on air as well. Anything before we get out of here?
No, man, it's been a great show. I'm so happy. Such a great show.
Very fantastic show. Well, till tomorrow at 11 a.m., we're out of here. Peace.
Every voice and sing till earth in heaven ring with the harmonies of liberty. Let our rejoicing rise as the listening skies. Let it resound loud as the rolling sea. Sing a song full of the faith dark past has taught us. Sing a song full of the hope that the present has brought us. Facing the rising sun.